Hi friends, welcome back or to the channel. It's Jesse, it's Cadillac Rod and Customs. It is an exciting day today. I mean, it's a Monday, which is not exciting, but as you guys know, we had a 1-gauge system in the 4Runner that was malfunctioning when we bought it. The 4Runner, we didn't buy the 1-gauge, but when we bought the 4Runner, the 1-gauge was malfunctioning, and I've been in contact with the company for the last couple of weeks, and finally we tried everything that we could do for me to fix it here, and I couldn't get it done. So finally the company just was like, dude, just send it back. We'll see what we can do. If we can't fix it, we'll get you a good deal on a new one. Well, long story short, they could not fix it. It was, I don't know, it was outdated. There was some janky stuff going on with it, and there was a bunch of the soldering that was coming loose and stuff like that. The guy's like, he told me that we can fix it, but you're probably going to have the same problems again within a few months because it's a dinosaur, basically. So for about half the cost of a new one, because they scratch and dented me one, which was pretty solid, I got a new one, like a whole new hub. I got the same monitor because the monitor tested perfect. There was nothing wrong with it, but here, the old and busted one, this big, gigantic plastic box. And here's the new hotness. Now, he did tell me that the pinouts on this one are different than the old one. So I have to, sorry for the wind noise. In my handy dandy notebook here, I have, when I pulled it out, I wrote down what I had here as far as the pinout goes. So here we have like A1 was coolant, A2 was oil, A3 was PSC, blah, 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 blah. But I had a feeling that the pinout was going to be different on the return. So I wrote down the wire color. That way I can look at the new pinout as opposed to the written pinout that I have here. So basically I have to look at the new one on the website and see which one the coolant goes to, and then flip the page and my coolant wire is green. So let's get some screwdrivers out of the garage over there and get to installing this turd, shall we? There we go. Okay, so the new pin right here, number 1 is ground, number 2 is power. So I'm going to get those hooked up first. Yeah, 1 is ground, 2 is power. And I have those taped up right here just because, it is keyed power and I didn't want the wire just dancing around in here by itself. So the very first one I'm hooking up is going to be the ground wire on the number 1 probe. This would probably be a lot easier to do if my 4Runner wasn't sky high and it wasn't windy outside. But whatever, beggars can't be choosers when you don't have a shop. You just got to deal with the elements as they are. Power and ground are connected. Now I'm just gonna go through and plug them all in because I realize that I'm not getting very good footage down in there. I'm just gonna go ahead and knock the rest of these out, and then I'll bring you guys back when it's time to put the monitor in, because the old wiring to the monitor has to go. They sent me a new one, so we have to get rid of all that old wiring, which is fine. I can reroute it. Okay. Never mind the mess. I'm going to come back through and clean this all up. But my pinout reads, these 2 top wires is ground and power. And then on A1, which is my green wire, is coolant. Then I have oil, And this one is supposed to be trans, but since I have a standard transmission, it's hooked up to my PSC cooler. So I asked them to change the trans gauge to steering or PSC, whichever one they decided. A4 is my fuel gauge. 5, I don't know if you guys can see it, but clear down there, I have an oil pressure sensor at the factory oil filter location. And then down on my relocation, my oil filter relocation, there's another sensor, and they're both wired, and both wires come up here. So my brown wire here goes to an oil sensor, as well as my yellow wire here, which is an extra. So one of these two hopefully reads fuel pressure, or oil pressure, I mean. I know Clancy told me that he was having issues with the oil pressure sensor, and we weren't sure if it's in the one gauge or one of the sensors. So I've got both of those two hooked up, and we'll see which one of those two works. Let's see, this one here is boost, because I have a 4-bar or a 3-bar sensor here that goes to a vacuum hose that goes to the back of the intake manifold. And the 2 wires you see on this side go to my TAC sensor. So let's jump in here and see what happens when we turn the key on. I know I said I was going to bring you guys back when it was time to put the monitor in, but that was a lie. Jump up in here. Shh. Turn this thing off before we get copyrighted. Holy cow. Man, that thing was quick. Let's hit the glow plugs. Ooh, she's grumpy. Yeah, she's real grumpy. So the fuel tank looks right. Water temp looks right. Oil pressure still don't work. So that one may be a sensor issue. I don't know why we're reading fuel pressure, because I don't have fuel pressure. This fuel pressure might be the extra oil pressure sensor though. So I'll dive into that when that time comes, and we'll see what happens. But this one gauge is super cool because there's so many different settings that they give you with these things. There's like 30 something screens in here. This one was the one that I used to run because it was the only one that had a working coolant temperature. But the rest of it seems to be working okay. And when you go through, we'll just go through all of them here. Look, it says we're reading 10,000 RPMs. I may not be a smart man, but it sounds like we're doing about 800. So something in that sensor, I have to go through and reprogram. This one you can check your lap times. I dig this one because it's like 80, it's really 80s, you know, it's super cool. We're only at 19 of these things. Man, there's a ton of these. I like that one. It's real simple, real clean. Everything's down here. It's super nice. RPMs are still pegged though. We're going to have to figure that out. These ones here, if you have like a TPMS system in your vehicle, you can actually program that into this one gauge and it'll tell you your tire pressures and everything. I like that one too. That's real simple, real clean. I think you can actually go through these and adjust which gauges are where on a computer though. You can download a program for your computer, like an app, and then you can go through and change all the parameters in the one gauge and decide what shows where. I don't know what all these blank ones are about. That's weird. We're back to 1. So let's pick one, shall we? I kind of like that one. See, now it says we're doing 1100 RPMs, which is more believable. Oh, that's way better. Look at it. It's more believable that way. We just need to decide on one. I'm going to decide on one and then I'll show you some of the settings that they've taught me how to fix. Okay, so from the main screen, having a diesel is all fun and games until you have to sit in it while it's running and try to explain shit. Then it sucks because everything in here is rattling and vibrating. But from the main screen here, click the top right. Oops, sorry, go back to the gauges. The top left, and you can go to screen setup design, sensor setup, diagnostics. You can adjust the brightness on it. And none of this stuff worked beforehand. So we're already way better because I've gone through all of the gauge settings and they all work. Well, the ones that are functioning, you know what I mean? So let's go to screen setup. I'm gonna have to email them and find out how to adjust the tack to make it correct, because we saw that it works. It's reading 11,000 instead of 1100. Let's just go back 0.1 and see what happens. We'll set it to 0, I guess. I don't know. You can go to indicators and do thresholds. So your sensor list here tells you water temp. You can do like flashlights. You can set triggers and all this stuff. Back to gauges. Okay, so the tack doesn't work at all now. Let's go to sensor setup. Transmission. Oh, that's not going to work. Main menu. Screen setup. Tack. Let's go to 50 and see what happens. Back to gauges. See, now we're maxed out again. I don't know. Like I said, I'll have to email them and find out what this is doing. Oil pressure is still reading 0. You know what? We're gonna go ahead and shut this thing off. That way you guys can actually hear me. So we're gonna click the top left again. And we're going to go to screen setup design. Indicators. Indicator 1. You can do your high beam, your fan kicking on, 4-wheel drive, door open. You can set all kinds of shit through these indicators. And since I don't have any of them hooked up, we're just going to leave them blank. But you saw you can do like battery voltage indicator and door open and turn signal and high beam and all kinds of stuff. And here you set your thresholds for all your sensors, which this is what I need to figure out, because the sensors that are here, most of them work except the TAC. You can diagnose it. So you can do, like, if you have OBD2, CAN bus, Phytech, you can data log with this thing. You can do all kinds of cool shit. If you click the top right-hand corner, you can hook up relays to certain shit. Like, so you want your cooling fan or some rock lights or a fuel pump or something hooked up. You can do 8 of these things. You click race. You can track your times. So let's go back to gauges, back here, upper right. You can go look at the fuel. This actually tells you your exact, and there's no leveling feature on this. So like if you're out driving around or something, it's not going to be exact, but once the fuel settles in the tank, it'll tell you your percentage, your gallons used. I don't have an odometer hooked up in this, so I can't track tank mileage, but you can if you have it. So for now, I need to figure out what's going on with the transmission one and the tachometer. And that's all I need for now, because everything else seems to work. Oh, we need another round of glow plugs for this boy. There we go. These 617s, they love glow plugs. Unless it's at operating temperature, like 160 and above, you got to run them glow plugs for a couple seconds, man. It's crazy. So I have oil temperature, which is weird. I don't know why I have oil temperature but not oil pressure. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. My pressure one doesn't work at all. I'm still unsure why we're tracking fuel pressure. But it's good to know that we have fuel pressure. I think I like this one. Once I figure this part out, though, you know, because it has everything I want it to. It's got coolant temp here, voltage, boost, RPMs, mile per hour is down here in the gigical part. Oil, it makes oil pressure, because if it didn't, the water would be blown up by now. My AFR, which I don't know why I have that. I don't have an AFR gauge here. Maybe that's what my 3-bar sensor is. Maybe I'm just an idiot and my AFR is actually the 3-bar sensor that's in the back of my intake. I don't know. That would make more sense though, right? And it has fuel percentage. So, brother, there we go. Like I said, I'm going to email these guys about my TAC sensor to see why it's not reading correctly, and the oil pressure, and then that's going to be about it. So, come on, man. Man, this thing will rattle your brains out. Yeah, that's going to do it for this video. I'm super happy to have a functioning gauge cluster in this deal. Like I said, I don't really care as much about a speedometer. If I did, I could either buy the GPS module from Onegauge and have a functioning GPS speedo, or I could just, download a generic speedometer app on my phone and do the same thing for free instead of having to pay for an app. I need to replace that door handle. Anyway, yeah, I'm super happy that it's working. It was a little bit more expensive than I wanted it to be, but to have a peace of mind that everything in here is working like it's supposed to is totally worth it to me. So that's going to be a wrap. Hopefully we can get this thing out and put it in the rock soon, because I've been, just kind of tooling around out here in the cedars lately, and it's fun. I love brush jumping, I think is what they used to call it. But I want to get this thing up in the rocks because that's what it was built for. So hopefully we can do that soon now that we have, as far as I know, everything worked out that I wanted to have worked out. Basically just wanted the gauge cluster to work, and I had a few loose ends I had to tie up. Oh, also need to buy a clutch master cylinder because we went out for a ride yesterday and we were parked up on some stuff, and my clutch master cylinder decided to leave the chat. I had a puddle of brake fluid on the floor, which is rather alarming when you're out in the middle of nowhere. But, you know, it's an old vehicle, and I don't know if that master's ever been changed. So I do have a used one back here in the back, but I'm probably not going to put a used one in this deal. I'll probably just buy a new one. So, yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're not already, consider subscribing to the channel because it's free and it's somewhat entertaining, I think. If not, let me know. I don't know, we'll change the content around a little bit because I want this deal to work out. So, yeah, like I said, thanks for watching, guys. Remember, your dreams aren't going to work unless you do. So don't be afraid of technology. It will be your friend if you let it be.